The tale begins in the quiet, unassuming village of Oakhaven, where whispers of old spirits and forgotten histories often drifted on the evening breeze. Here lived Mr. Sterling, a man whose ambition overshadowed his ethics, driven by an insatiable hunger for wealth and status. His eyes fell upon a prime piece of land on Oakhaven's bustling main road, a plot that held an ancient, almost mystical aura. It belonged to Mr. Wallace, a humble mining engineer working far from home, whose family had owned the land for generations, its deeds carefully guarded within official records. Mr. Sterling, however, saw only opportunity. He scoffed at the whispers of the land's peculiar past, dismissing them as old wives' tales. With audacious disregard for legalities and local legends, he began construction on a magnificent three-story mansion, a monument to his burgeoning fortune. "Wallace is far away," he rationalized. "He'll never fight this in court." But Mr. Wallace was not as distant as Sterling hoped. Returning unexpectedly to Oakhaven, he found half a grand house already towering on his ancestral plot. A furious confrontation ensued, a clash between the rightful owner and the audacious usurper. Mr. Wallace, his voice trembling with a righteous fury that seemed to awaken something in the very soil beneath their feet, vowed to reclaim what was his. The local court issued an immediate injunction, halting construction. But Mr. Sterling, blinded by his greed, merely accelerated his efforts, rushing to complete the mansion. He announced a lavish housewarming, a brazen act of defiance, daring Mr. Wallace and the spirits of the land to challenge him. On the night of the housewarming, a storm, unpredicted and violent, lashed at Oakhaven. Inside the gleaming new mansion, the air was thick with tension, not just from the looming legal battle, but from an almost palpable chill that seemed to emanate from the very foundations. During the traditional blessing ceremony, the incense smoke, instead of rising pure and white, coiled into an unsettling green hue, extinguishing itself 3 times with an ominous hiss. The family muttered, their festive mood giving way to unease. Then, with a creak that sounded like a groan from the depths of the earth, the ornate altar table shuddered. Cracks spider-webbed across its surface, and the sacred incense burner shattered, scattering ash and debris. Before anyone could react, Lily, Mr. Sterling's innocent granddaughter, let out a piercing shriek. Her small body convulsed, and when she spoke, it wasn't her own voice. A guttural, ancient sound, filled with venomous rage, erupted from her lips. "Thieves! You have desecrated the resting place. You have stolen what is not yours. You will pay with your very souls." The local shaman, an old man with eyes that had seen too much, was summoned. He arrived, his face etched with concern, but as he began his chants, his eyes widened in terror. He recoiled, dropping his ceremonial implements. "This is no mere spirit," he whispered, his voice trembling. "This is an ancient malevolence, a wendigo of the earth, roused from its slumber. It demands more than just justice. It demands a reckoning. Leave this place, or you will all perish." He fled into the storm-swept night, leaving the Sterling family in stunned silence. The mansion, once a symbol of Mr. Sterling's success, became a gilded cage of horrors. Mark, Mr. Sterling's youngest son, a vibrant and promising young man, was found days later, his legs grotesquely twisted, paralyzed from the waist down. He recounted a horrifying vision. A spectral woman in a tattered white gown, her eyes burning like embers, had appeared on the road, beckoning him. As he swerved to avoid her, a cold, heavy pressure enveloped his legs, crushing them. "She wanted me to feel the earth," he rasped, "to feel what we'd done to it." The entire family was plagued by increasingly vivid and terrifying visitations. Lily would often point to empty corners, whispering about the lady in white. Mr. Sterling himself was tormented by nightmares of being drowned in dark, churning mud, glimpses of a forgotten sorrow hidden beneath his house. Mrs. Sterling, once robust, grew pale and sickly, her chest constantly heavy as if an unseen hand pressed down on her lungs. Catherine, Mark's wife, bore the brunt of the spiritual assault. Her reflection in the polished surfaces of the mansion would twist into grotesque, decaying faces. A spectral, skeletal hand would often appear in the periphery of her vision, reaching, always reaching, from mirrors and shadows. Driven to the brink of madness, she fled to her family, leaving behind a note warning of the things that stir beneath. Desperate, James, Mr. Sterling's eldest son, sought out Master Elias, a reclusive mystic known for his ability to commune with ancient forces. Elias, his gaze piercing, listened intently to James's frantic tale. "Your house," he declared, "rests upon a violated sanctuary, a place where the living and the dead once communed in balance. A shade of the ancestors has been awakened, fueled by wrath. We can attempt a binding ritual, but it requires absolute faith and obedience." James swore to follow every instruction. During the elaborate ritual, Master Elias began his intricate chants, weaving protective symbols in the air. But Mrs. Sterling, still clinging to her skepticism and convinced that Mr. Wallace had somehow orchestrated these misfortunes, began to rail against the proceedings. "This is all a trick," she shrieked, her voice cutting through the sacred incantations. "A charade to frighten us." Her words shattered the fragile spiritual barrier. The air turned frigid, and a guttural roar, deep and ancient, echoed through the mansion. The spectral woman in white materialized fully, her face a mask of sorrow and fury, her eyes burning like unearthly light. She lunged, not at James, but at Mrs. Sterling. Master Elias, his face grave, gathered his remaining strength and erected a temporary shield. "Foolish woman, your disbelief has undone us all. The binding is broken. I cannot save you now. Flee this place, or your souls will be claimed." He vanished into the night-swept night, leaving the Sterling family to their despair. Mr. Sterling, clinging to a fading hope, raced to the hospital to see his ailing son, leaving Mrs. Sterling alone in the cursed mansion. That night, the true horror began for her. In the dead of night, she was dragged, screaming, into the ensuite bathroom. The spectral woman, her form wavering between solid and ethereal, forced Mrs. Sterling's head into a basin of water. But it wasn't water she saw. It was a swirling vortex of blood, filled with the drowned faces of her children and grandchildren, their eyes wide with terror. The ancient spirit whispered promises of unending torment, showing her visions of her entire lineage consumed by the darkness beneath their home. The next morning, Mr. Sterling returned to a scene of absolute devastation. His wife was found huddled in a corner of the bathroom, her body trembling, her eyes vacant and wide with an unspeakable horror. She babbled incoherently about blood and the lady, always watching, from the cracks. Her mind was shattered. Desperate, Mr. Sterling rushed back to Master Elias's home, pounding on the door. It was Elias's wife who answered, her face hardened by years of witnessing human folly. "Go away, Mr. Sterling," she spat, her voice laced with contempt. "You and your family deserve this. You built your fortune on stolen earth, on the cries of the restless dead. The ancestors have awakened, and their judgment is upon you. There is no absolution for such a sin." Mr. Sterling stood alone, the storm raging around him, the chilling realization settling deep into his bones. His ambition had not built a home, but a tomb. A magnificent tomb where his family would slowly, terrifyingly be consumed by the ancient wrath he had so carelessly awakened. The mansion, once a dream, was now a nightmare solidified.
its foundations drenched in the sorrow of the past, forever resonating with the haunting echoes of the earth's revenge. The story was far from over. It had only just begun its descent into the true darkness that lay beneath.